Good afternoon, dear Eritrea viewers from around the world. Today's program has a special guest from Toronto, Canada. Welcome Yafet and Mehari to Eritrea, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
متأكل كايو وتصح حزبنا بزيادن عدن واشتخاكوا زي موقعي بعال حلنا خوين كاس مس هزب خات الساقي كنت مرحلنا المبرق كين ترفع العراق نقل كار تاريخ تتغير بتكبر بحساب يا همم يا لو معبلنا حمدو يا همم يا لو معبلنا حمدو يا همم يا لو انت تسجم كان بزيو نسيل كيوم ليركا زتخينا يبو محلخاتات شجر تدبتس دايكا تحتمي مسيل كيوم ليركا بوبزاي سفوز قهامي نسخاقن على خاقن ساد عمت تدن قال لا يدري قال له اخو كبر حزبي إخا عب نفسه زنقس حوخا مخاني عمناي بالحقس نيات حزبي إخي كمنت الكندي انبزاي زخور حوخ مخاني ما ينتبان كوينكم أباي تساقوكم عريخم ومن دلاي تقليع تبودو عبز تكال اوان نزب لكم كرع رخبان برنا ايدو بتامرار قلع يا همم يالو معبل دلاي فتحي يا همم يالو معبل لا يفتحي يا همم يالو وانت قبزاي زانتاي زانتو هلاو زوج نابلو وطفيو انت قبزاي زانتاي زانتو هلاو زوج ناتبه لطفيو انت حنبيسا توت كارت حيال وحود لسخن دي غير قستي برهان تقود يا هم مالو فتحي زبودلو يا هم مالو فتحي زبودلو فوتونيغا سفتينو زحلف مع بليغة عالدمل زقلف ليتالو الحفاش حاب تقبل كتمنزل اي بخالق بأخاي زخورع اتناي لايلاي سلاي لايلاي حاب افويتا زي بلو ممليس كاتبرت عاقعونا بلوخا نسد انا تبكت عريخا يوم قوبزاي حرانا مسكن فلي يهنين كايوم نحيل خاز عاقتو فتم كم زي اللي واي لايل علوي كبرخا قنطيطو كخبرو زحاسبو دقي مقبطوخا صبابع رحلوبو وصعو زحبرو ناي وصعت والتا نسخا خلقات يبلو من بوتسا يا همم يالو معبلنا حمدو يا همم يالو معبلنا حمدو يا همم يالو فتحي زبودلو يا همم يالو فتحي زبودلو فوتونيغا سفتينو زحلف مع بليغة عالدمل زقلف يتالو الحفاش أبتقبل كتمنزل أي بخالق بأخاي زخورع اللاي لاي لاي سلاي لاي لاي عقو فايتا زي بلو ممليس كاتبرت عاقعنا بلوخا نسب إنا تبك أرقيخا يوم قوبزاي حرانا مسكن فلي يعني كايوم نحيل خاز عاقتو فتم كم زي اللي واي بايل علوي كبرخا قنطيتو كخبرو زحاسبو لقي مقبطوخا صبابع رحلوبو وصعو زحبرو ناي وصعات والتا نسخا خلخات يبلو من بوتسا يا همم يالو يا همم يالو مع بلدلا يفتحي يا همم يالو يا همم يالو يا همم يالو مع بلدلا يفتحي يا همم يالو يا همم يالو فتحي زبدلو يا همم يالو فتحي زبدلو يا همم يالو فتحي زبدلو يا همم يالو فتحي زبدلو.
Okay. So today we will be discussing the protests at the Eritrean festival, mainly in Canada, but also all over the world, and the overall current situation in Eritrea. But before we start, please introduce yourself, your background, and upbringing and educational history.
So yeah, my name is Yafet. Like you said, I grew up in Toronto, and I've been here majority of my life. I am currently in school for trades, so I am planning to be. I do construction, but I am planning to do something more specific. So I'm in between electrical and plumbing. Yeah, I graduated high school and just doing what everybody else is doing.
Okay. That's good. That's good. So before we begin with the rest of the questions, I just want people to understand the intent of this video before it goes out. So following the protests at the Eritrean festivals, many of the youth and other older people were quite confused as to why there were protesters. And
Right.
so it seems that a lot of people in the diaspora community are oblivious to the harsh realities in Eritrea. So hopefully we can clarify any questions that these people may have. So starting off with some background, how would you describe the current situation of Eritrea, especially for young people?
I think the only word I can use to describe it is horrible. I think it's unjust. I think it's unfair. The thing with, in my opinion, I think a lot of youth in Eritrea are missing basic necessities, basic, like down basic,
Yeah.
like running water,
Yeah.
very basic things, And again, I do think it's unfair. I think it's unjust because as myself being a young person, I would want the people in Eritrea to have the same opportunities that I have. Basic things like going to school and being able to choose what I want to do in my career. Simple things like that they don't have the choice. I saw a Air TV interview where Isas was saying that we have some of the worst education in the world, and he thinks it's sad, but he controls the education, right? So
Yeah.
he closed down the only university in Eritrea, in Asmara.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't complain about our education not being good enough, or there not being enough people who are doing things when you haven't given them the platform to do that, which is one of the reasons why everybody is starting to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The situation is quite sad. So on topic of Eritrea, have you ever visited or do you have any memories of Eritrea?
I did go when in 2002. It was a long time ago. Long time ago. My mom went in 2019. But yeah, no, I've never been recently. I've never been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not because it's not because I can't, but it's also I am scared of going. because I do speak out a lot on the internet and I do speak out a lot in social settings. So I'm scared.
Yeah, that's understandable. So, I also did visit back in 2018, so I understand the feeling. When I went as a tourist, I hear a lot about like, people that go back home from like America or like Europe. They're like, oh, it's great over there, They talk about like, how they enjoyed it, but it's quite the opposite when you see how the people are living because, I mean, as a tourist, you go there with a lot of money and you have access to what normal people there wouldn't have.
Anywhere is fun if you have money.
Yeah, right. So it's definitely sad. And I remember back when I went in 2018, like I left when I was 2 years old, as I was like 2.5 years old. But when I went, they were like trying to stop me from leaving. They were like, "Oh, how did you leave Eritrea? How did you, get out?" And it was like it was a really long process just to come back to America. So yeah, I definitely understand the fear that's
The
there.
fear, right? Just out of one, I just avoid that.
Yeah, not being able to visit your home country and stuff.
Which sucks because like there is a lot of things that I do want to see. I want to see my grandparents' house. I want to meet my aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff that I don't even know. But again, that is the reality of what the country is.
Yeah. So many young people who grew up in the diaspora communities, they support the regime or they're just ignorant to the entire situation and don't care. So what is it or who influenced you to oppose the current government?
Well, me personally, I grew up in a family full of Baamti. My whole family. Like my dad's side of my family, they're all Shabia, they're all supporters of the government, but I didn't grow up with them. I grew up with my mom, and her side of the family has a bit more sense. And my aunt is very, very active in the community. So, you've probably seen her. If I told you her name, you probably know who it is. So I did grow up around a lot of influential people who kind of, honestly, I feel like even if I didn't grow up around them, it's just common sense. If you choose to ignore it, that's on you. I know a lot of people who say, yeah, I know Eritrea is bad, but it's not my problem. Or I know Eritrea is I know people in Eritrea are struggling, but I go there every 2 years for a vacation, so I don't care. Right? So it does depend on the person.
Yeah, but those views are kind of selfish because
absolutely,
even if you were to put as an Eritrean, if you were to put yourself in the citizens' positions, like the people back home, you wouldn't have the same views that you have here in a free country.
Right.
So yeah. So you were at the protest with Brgid Nhamedu, the youth who protested at the Toronto Festival this past weekend. So can you give our viewers the full picture about what occurred at the demonstration and the subsequent events?
Well, when we all first had gathered, it was there was a conversation about violence and aggression, and the direct conversation was, we don't touch anybody. Our goal is not to hurt people. Our goal is to get a message across. So again, which is why when we went, me personally, I had a bag of t-shirts. That's it. That's all I went there with. I had a bag of t-shirts to give out. Or, if anybody wanted t-shirts, they can come to me. I just went with t-shirts. Some people went with signs, other people went with flags. But there was no intention to go and start beating people up. There was no intention to go and create chaos or violence or anything. But the second we got there, and this was the most shocking part for me, because I've never in my life have experienced this kind of hate from my own people. When we got there, I had women my mom's age screaming at me, calling me Adame, calling me all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, yo, what is going on right now? It was just a lot for me personally, coming from an environment where I've never experienced that from another Eritrean.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and then yeah, it's just it. I feel like it was unavoidable. It was
Yeah.
unavoidable. The fighting was unavoidable. Again, we didn't go there to start fighting people. We didn't go there to start swearing at people. It was completely unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
The second we got there, again, like I told you, we were met with um, cursing, and there was ladies throwing bada bada at us. And yeah, it was. It's all going on right now. There was people on. So the way the park is set up, there's a gazebo in the middle, and there is older men like beating us or trying to hit us with the sticks from the flags.
Mm-hmm.
And once we got to the tents, it just all hell broke loose.
Oh, yeah. And I've heard a lot of people talking about like the PFDJ and like their supporters and people. They were claiming how you guys were all like being violent toward children, women, elderly people. I was actually reading an article by The Guardian, and they interviewed somebody from the Eritrean festival, like an attendee, and they were talking about how you left all the how all the elderly were left for the dead, and there was just the most extreme allegations and things like that. So, I mean, what do you have to say against
That
that type of allegations?
that really genuinely it hurts my feelings. Not even that it hurts my feelings. It just hurts because it's like you know that's not what happened. I know that's not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what interview you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
I know exactly what interview you're talking about. Me and her, we both know that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it just sucks that when you know you can spew things to social media and make and to news networks and make things work for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you are willing to do that, then it's sad. Again, not if it, it was reported 9 people injured. 90% of the injuries were from us.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe 2 or 3 of the festival goers were injured, and they're all men.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single woman was touched.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single child was touched. Not. It was just men.
Yeah.
It was just men.
Yeah.
Not that it's right. Not that it's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. But again, if you come as a man, if you come and hit me, I'm gonna defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's common sense. It's just simple thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
But it just hurts because, as somebody who grew up here, and that interview, the person who did that interview, as somebody who also grew up here, you know better.
Yeah. Yeah. So me personally, I didn't go to any protest because of like you know, fear of violence or whatever it was. But I did, like, I was, you know, keeping updated with the situation, especially the one in Seattle.
Yeah.
And it seemed like in Seattle, for example, the protesters, they went at like 4 a.m. just so like they could avoid the violence, you know. That was like the entire goal, to avoid the violence. And I just remember like a couple of the protesters, even though they went at like 4 a.m., they still ended up getting hit by some of the officers there as well. And so it's just like the violence is like, you know, it was really unnecessary in my opinion.
Absolutely, I agree. We even, if anything, we were late. The initial plan was to go early in the morning because again, nobody's goal is to hurt anybody. It's just so the festival doesn't happen. Our goal was so that festival does not happen. Our goal, I'm not going to beat up old people.
Yeah.
That is not my goal. I'm extremely respectful of my elders. I'm extremely respectful of my community. My goal was not to go there and start beating kids up or start beating up old women. The goal was for festival not to happen. We know what it means. We know what festival stands for. I had a lot of my friends, I had a lot of people my age message me and be like, yo, what's wrong with you? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
If you can sit in a park, you can sit in a hotel and dance and eat when people back home are dying, when people back home are crying, when our mothers are crying, then you are an animal to me. You're not a person.
Yeah.
Because the issue is not violence. Because you guys don't mind when violence happens in Eritrea. You guys don't mind when violence happens to people fleeing Eritrea. You guys don't mind when these boats are drowning. But you guys mind when violence is when you guys don't like it when there's violence that's ruining your dancing, that's ruining your eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's one-sided.
Yeah. It's quite hypocritical. I also saw I saw a video from Vanessa, actually, the Vanessa Tahaya.
Yeah. No, she's great. She's great.
Yeah. I saw how she spoke out about the same exact topic, about how people were so hypocritical to condemn like the violence that occurred at the protests, but then they turn a blind eye to the actual violence that happens in Eritrea. And not that this is like condoning the violence at all, but like,
No, you pick and choose. You pick and choose when you want to be upset.
Yeah.
You pick and choose. That's what it is. That's really what they're all about. They pick and choose when they want to be upset about things.
Yeah. So you mentioned some friends like texting you and stuff. So have your opinions and your stance on the situation affected any of your relationships?
Yeah, quite a bit. I've had maybe 3-4 people be like, "Yo, I can't talk to you anymore." You know, like you guys are terrorists. You guys is. I was like, "Whoa, terrorists is like that was a far reach to call us terrorists."
Yeah.
But what they do back home, what they've been doing back home for the last 30 years, is not seen as terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
What we did for 1 day, for 2 days, isn't seen as terrorism. Mm-hmm. So again, it's more or less. I don't feel like I've lost anything. I actually feel like I'm gaining. Because now I get to see what people's real intentions are. Now I get to see where people's heads are actually at.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I don't think I'm not at a loss at all. If anything, I gained, because throughout the couple of days of us protesting and stuff, I met a lot of great people. I met a lot of people who have directly struggled,
Mm-hmm.
who have directly suffered, and I've gotten a lot of insight from them.
Yeah.
Which is bigger than anything I can receive from anybody else.
Yeah. Definitely agree. And so back to the topic of the violence that occurred. It wasn't really clear, but who incited what incited the violence to even start? Like, was it
The second we got to so the area to get to the gazebo is fenced up, because that's where their DJ is. That's where there's whatever the performances, whatever. The park, so it's fenced up. The second we got to the fence, I have a video, but somebody took a stick and hit the fence from their side, and then these guys just lifted up the fence and just started marching in. From then, that was it. The second they touched one of the tents and the fences, it was just game over from then. Then everyone just, the festival goers or whoever, the organizers who were inside the tents, started hitting us with sticks. And there's a video of a couple guys in blue shirts going into the trees and grabbing branches. I'm just saying this to show that we came with literally nothing. That the fact that these guys felt like they had to go and grab branches to protect themselves shows that we came with nothing. These guys had metal poles. Somebody had a knife. There was rocks. They had rocks covered, so you couldn't tell it was rocks. When the police did show up, we did tell them, and they did confiscate all that. But again, it doesn't say that in any of the news articles that came out.
Yeah. And so during the protest, there's actually, in addition to an interview you did, there's actually a viral picture that's been going around. It's been posted on The Guardian and CBC News. And it's a picture where you're standing face to face with these, the line of police officers. So tell us about the picture, because it looks like you were really passionately talking to them.
Oh, I was, in that moment, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, because out of frustration, somebody on one of the loudspeakers said, "We're gonna go in regardless of what these guys say, regardless of what happens, regardless is into another Sarina Karamina, it does not matter, we're gonna go in." And me, being a bit more level-headed than a lot of people, decided to see, because these guys pulled out their batons. They're ready to start beating people. They're ready to start tasing. They're ready to start pepper spraying. Because again, these are riot police. They're not regular police. They're just here. They are specifically for riots and public order. They're not regular police, because They have no leniency. They have no tolerance. The second they see a big crowd moving in, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
They will start arresting people. They will start hitting people. They will start severely injuring people. So my goal at that point in my this picture was to try to kind of de-escalate.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of these guys don't speak good English.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the police are just gonna see them as just just guys who are starting a riot. They don't care what's coming out of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So in that moment, my idea was just to keep them separated, saying, like, if there's anybody who can tell these guys to back up, it's gonna be me. You guys showing them sticks, it's not gonna scare them.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was saying, like in taking up, telling everybody, move back, guys, please, please, please. Like, I'm talking to the police. I'm like just going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't regret doing it at all, because at the end of the day, people being arrested, people messing up their papers, people losing their freedom does not do anything for our cause.
Mm-hmm.
It does nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And these guys, they have a lot of hurt, a lot of they've made a lot of sacrifices. They've seen a lot of things, which is what fuels these decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gone through any of that, so I can say and be like, okay, guys, wait. But they don't think like that, because they went through these things personally. When they see people, there's a lot of people, festival goers. Well, this is at the hotel, but there's a lot of people who bought tickets to go to the hotel, and they had the option to go underground to go in, who chose to go upstairs and walk past these guys and show them flags and say swear words at them and cuss them out to provoke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you're in situations like that, these guys are not thinking about police. They're just thinking like, oh, look, these guys are provoking us. Well, like it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So it was a really intense moment. It was extremely intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You talk about how like the protesters, they had a lot of trauma too, but something that's always been on my mind is how like even government supporters, like a lot of them, they also went through a lot of trauma. Like those were the very same people that had to ask for asylum, saying that Isas is a dictator, that they're being persecuted in their country, and then they go back, they come here, and then they celebrate him. So it's definitely it's really
That was one of the things. One of a great lady, great lady, Alem. She was one of the organizers. I got to speak with her a lot. I learned a lot from her. That was one of the things that she was saying on the speaker, is that you guys come here, you seek asylum, you cry about how bad your country is, you come here as refugees, and then you go back on vacation every year.
Yeah.
And you come here every summer and you dance and you celebrate and you there's pictures of Isas. You guys are kissing pictures of Isas. What is that?
Yeah.
You guys said you were oppressed, right? It's not showing me oppression.
Mm-hmm.
And what it comes down to is a lot of them come here, they abuse the Canadian system, they go on welfare, they get housing, they pay little to no rent, and they keep all this money so that they can go back home and build houses and do this and do that. Yeah. I know a lady who went back home and she has unlimited electricity because her house has solar panels. How did you afford to do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's the hypocrisy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. So, back to this picture. Were you able to de-escalate the situation? Were you afraid of the police?
No. No, in that moment, no.
Oh.
In that moment, my only concern was that, because at that point, I think 2 people had already been arrested.
Mm-hmm. And
again, people getting arrested, people getting hurt does nothing for the cause. It does nothing. If anything, we're losing. Mm-hmm. So at that point, and I did build a little bit of a rapport with one of the sergeants there. So when I told him like, yo, I got it, he gave me the benefit of the doubt. And he did tell them to just, obviously, you have your batons ready to go, but don't hit anyone yet.
Yeah.
See what this guy can do. If he can do it, okay, fine. If not, start beating them up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think what you did, it probably stopped a lot of violence. It
It could
had
have
the police
been way
actually.
worse.
Yeah, yeah.
It could have been way, way, way worse. And you know what? I don't blame these guys at all. When these guys are saying, "Yo, go in, guys, we don't care," I don't blame them at all. I know anybody else could look at that and be like, "Oh, that's so unreasonable. That's so da, da, da." I don't blame them. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Their blood is boiling.
Yeah.
I could never in a million years imagine what these guys have been through.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up here. You
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
I could. I couldn't even get close to what these guys have been through. So when they do things, irrational things like that, I don't blame them at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, the objectives of the demonstration were just to, like, shut down the festival, and to stop whatever political propaganda is spread within these festivals. And so, do you think you guys succeeded in achieving this goal and mission?
In a way, I mean, and this is the first time this has happened in Toronto. First
Yeah.
time in 30 plus years
Mm-hmm.
that the city revoked the permit. That in itself is a big win for us. Big, big, big win. Another thing that I think we got a big win is media coverage. For 3 days, all the news channels in Ontario were running this.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing that we needed from these protests was people to know what's
Yeah.
going on. Half
Mm-hmm.
of the police officers that were there when I was communicating, they're like, "Bro, I don't even know what's going on. I don't even know what Eritrea is." This gave us a chance to educate people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need the most. I don't need another Eritrean knowing what Eritrea struggle. It's not gonna do anything for me. I need other people knowing what's going on. The way everybody knows what's going on in Ukraine, I need people to know what's going on in Eritrea.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Media coverage is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Public perception is so important, and I feel like now finally we're getting to a point because of these demonstrations
Mm-hmm.
um, that we're slowly getting there,
Yeah.
and that's a big win for me. They had their party at the hotel. It's fine. I don't mind that because I'm celebrating other wins. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
maybe next year they won't get the hotel.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah. But these past 30 years, as you've mentioned, nobody, like, these festivals have been going on, and there's hardly been any media coverage on Eritrea, even though, these organizations such as the UN, Human Rights Watch, they're well aware of what's going on. But,
So
when Russia and Ukraine, they had their war, it was the biggest thing ever, right? But when Eritrea, is suffering, there's hardly any, like, coverage. Nobody talks about it. Why do you think that is?
I don't want to. It could be. I mean, from a logical standpoint, it could definitely be a race issue. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the issues that happen in Africa are overlooked because
Mm-hmm.
maybe we're black.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because we're African. Nobody really cares too much.
Mm-hmm.
When a white person struggles, it's more important to the rest of the world. Or it could simply be misinformation. The Eritrea has no Wi-Fi, no free press, no nothing.
Yeah.
So there are certain people who are educated enough to know what's going on, who want to educate themselves. But there's a lot of people who just don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think both of them are major reasons. There was a study that talked about how race plays a factor in, how the world reacts. And because, East Africa, that region, it's always in a, like, state of constant, like, struggle, instability. Problems are often overlooked, because people are like, oh, it's just going on again. It's like, what can we do?
Ethiopia is literally the freaking cover of $1 a day. They just think we're starving. No one really cares. Like it's like when I tell people, I've had so many people be like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "Eritrea." Where's that? I'm like, next to Ethiopia. "Oh, are you guys starving?" I'm like, "Okay." It's just people are just like there's a stereotypical idea of what's going on in the East, and that's
Hmm.
nobody really cares past that.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think it probably has a lot to do again with misinformation, because there's so many factions about, like, what people think. There's supporters and then there's people that don't support. So when it comes to people who aren't Eritrean, they don't know what to, like, listen to. Who do they believe?
Right.
And okay, so again, going on about like the contrast between the protesters and the people who attended the festivals, it's quite vivid. So, how can you describe the people who support and even celebrate the Eritrean government?
Listen, me up until maybe the last 3 years, maybe let's say the last time I went to Eritrean festival was like maybe the year before COVID. I used to go every year. I used to go every year. I used to play soccer. I used to do everything because the way this is advertised to people my age is that this is a way for us to connect with our people.
Mm-hmm.
As an 18-year-old, not 18 now, but I was 18 then, like as an 18, as a 17-year-old, as a 16-year-old, I'm like, oh, this is great. I get to meet more people that look like me. I get to meet more people that speak my language, you know? I don't know what's going on behind the scenes as a teenager.
Yeah.
I don't know who's funding this. I don't know who's organizing this. I don't know the behind the scenes. And which is and I feel like that's a big part of why a lot of these youth support it. They don't even know what they're supporting.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of people my age be like, yo, this is just a cultural festival, fam. This is just what we do to so that I can go see other Eritreans.
Mm-hmm.
I think the exact same way. Even being from a family of Domti, I would still go because I used to be. Nobody can take away from me my pride as an Eritrean. I love being Eritrean.
Yeah.
I love my country. I love my people. I love Bahle. I love everything about Eritrea. Nobody can take that away from me. But I'm not gonna pretend. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna live in a fairy tale world. And that's what a lot of them are doing because it's the easy way out. It's easier to sit and go to festival and have a flag and ring it around and be all good with your parents and be all good with the rest of the community than it is to speak out and tell the truth. Which is what I noticed with a lot of these guys. Because I've had one-on-one conversations with some of the festival goers, and they've willingly admitted to me that, yeah, Eritrea is bad, Eritrea is not good, I wish it was better. But then you turn around and go to the festival. So I already know where your head's at. And that's the issue with a lot of them. A lot of them don't want to take the time. A lot of them don't want to take on the stress of speaking the truth.
Yeah. And I think a problem is that, like, I've seen a lot of people who speak out, on social media platforms, and all of a sudden they're being told that they're not Eritrean anymore, that they don't love their country. So I know this happened. This has probably happened to you. How do you feel?
Happening right now.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that they have to say to me is that, oh, you're Agame, or you're from Tigre, oh, you're Weyane, or you're this and that. That is the only thing that you can say to me. You have nothing that you say to me has depth. Nothing that you say to me has anything about my, you can't say anything about my character. You can only call me Agame. That's all you have. And even what the hell is Agame, bro? What is that? I need them to come up with something better.
Yeah.
My dad's from Qatar, my mom's from Saganiti. I'm pure blood Eritrean. Like, nothing you say to me will bother me. Like, I've said this to so many people. I've had a lot of people be like, yo, you're not even real Eritrean. You're Ethiopian. Because I'm speaking because I'm speaking the truth. I'm not from Eritrea. You guys need to come up with something better than that.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people in my family call me and be like, yo, how can you support a group that supports Tigre? You know what Tigre did to us? You know what TPLF did to us? You know what Wayane did to us? Why should I punish a group of people for something Meles did 20 years ago?
Yeah.
There's a Tigray genocide going on. It has nothing to do with Meles. It has nothing to do with what happened in 98.
Yeah.
It's just basic human rights.
Yeah.
So if you guys, as a community, think that, oh, Brgid Nhamedu supports Tigray, they don't care for Eritrea, then there's something missing in here. If you, as a person, as a human being, can support the genocide of innocent people, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Nothing you say to me will bother me because I know I speak the truth.
Yeah, you put that into You put that very like perfectly, because they've been referring to, you know, Agame, you're from Tigray, as like, you know, an insult, and it's really
Not.
not. They're
It's
just a group of people, you know.
a great group of people at that.
Yeah, yeah,
Who are very strong in their culture. They're
hmm
very strong in their being.
yeah,
It's so horrible that they're being attacked the way that they're being attacked. But it
hmm
just shows what kind of power they hold,
yeah, yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah, for sure. So, back to the situation in Eritrea, it's been referred to as the North Korea of Africa. You know, it has the number one offender of human rights, with no basic constitutional rights, you know, ranging from like freedom of speech, religion, petition, you name it, they probably don't have it. And, you know, it's ranked number 2 in slavery index as well. So, how is it that people in the diaspora community that enjoy the freedom and rights of a free and democratic country go on to support such a repressive and undemocratic regime? You know?
Ignorance. It's simple ignorance.
Yeah.
It takes a quick Google search to go see what's going on in Eritrea. Very,
Mhm.
very quick Google search. BBC will tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
You know, a very quick Google search will tell you every single article written by white journalists that I've read has called Eritrea the North Korea of Africa. It's called one of the most repressive governments in the world. This is all information that's on the internet.
Yeah.
So if you want to educate yourself, you can.
Mhm.
People who don't is just complete ignorance.
Mhm.
If I wanted to be, again, it's about living in a fairy tale world. What's easier for me as an individual?
Mhm.
The easy way out is to go dance with my bandera and, do what everybody else is doing. The hard way is to speak the truth. People who speak the truth will always be condemned, no matter what.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. And I think you okay, so in the Seattle, I think it was in the Seattle protest, uh there's a man, his name was Captain.
After that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And he was speaking to a bunch of, I think it was like about a group of like 6 or 7,
I saw the
like,
video.
yeah, the video, right? And he was telling them how like they shouldn't even have to listen to him, because they could just get an unbiased perspective just from a simple Google search, you know? And how people shouldn't be blinded by the people around them. They shouldn't be scared, you know, just because that's what their parents believe in or that's what their friends believe in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that's something for all the youth in the diaspora community.
But they see, oh, look, you fresh. Y'all fresh.
This
They
is a
want the same dream you do, but they trying to tell you, hey, bro, my mom's kid. I know the brother went to Sawa and went to Tigray water, had nothing to do with us. We got nothing to do with Tigray. We got nothing to do with Ethiopia. Why our brothers got to go die in Ethiopia? It's not our business, right? If y'all
come together, do some fun stuff, and also speak about what's going on. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of I think the biggest thing for Eritrean youth is the togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what they're seeking. They're seeking to be together with people from their community, whether it's right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, which is one of the reasons, which I personally I think that's why it's so easy to pull them in, because they're just looking for there's in Toronto, specifically in Toronto, there's a lot of multicultural diversity, and all these cultures have their own huge communities. There's little India and there's Chinatown and there's this and that, and all these people have their own communities where they can be together and where they can do things together, and I think if us as Talamti could start something for youth to educate them, that would be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And that is something that I do want to look into the future, because these pro government people have all these youth groups,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is how they rope people in. They have like paint nights and they do barbecues and they do this and that, and it's specifically for Eritrean youth. So we could do that on our end and speak the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would make a huge difference in how much youth we have in our group.
Yeah. I
I
think
think what he's doing is amazing.
yeah, because the youth do have a big part, especially in the future.
Yeah.
You know, can't be the same. Like, you know, people grow
I always
old.
say that. I always say that. I say that to my mom. I say that to my aunts and uncles. Eritrea is for us.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, you're gonna pass away. You're gonna leave. You're gonna get old, and Eritrea is gonna be for us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want us to take care of Eritrea,
Yeah.
then we need to be educated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would love to go back home and live there.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do that. I really would.
Yeah. 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 So on the topic of youth, I'm 17, so that means this is my summer before senior year. So I spent like the entire summer, I've been like researching what college do I want to go to, what's my major gonna be, things like that. But the reality in Eritrea is quite different. At the same time, I'm over here preparing, my college applications. The 17-year-olds back in Eritrea, they're getting ready to go to Sawa, where they're going to be, where if they don't get satisfactory grade, they're going to be doing military service for Lord knows how long. And
That's what
so,
I said to
mhm,
the CP24 interviewer. I told him if I was 17, if I was in grade 11 right now,
yeah,
grade 12, I would be in the military. That's
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what I said. So it's
mhm,
amazing that you mentioned that.
yeah, yeah. And so it's why we see such large, like, we've seen immigration, all those boats that drown in like the Mediterranean, Red Sea. It's all because it's the youth that are trying to escape, because they have no futures in Eritrea. So, how do you feel about the lives of the Eritrean youth?
I want them. I want them to be. I want them to have the opportunities that I have. I saw so many people posting those pictures, those Lampedusa pictures of the little coffins and stuff. He wouldn't even take back their bodies. He wouldn't even take their bodies back. How can you support something like that and then go post RIP? He wouldn't even take back their bodies. He said they're not Eritreans. How can you support that? Little babies, teenagers who just want better for themselves. I get to wake up every day. I get to take the bus. I get to go to school. I get to walk around. I can talk back to a police officer here. Simple things that they don't have. It's the simplest things. I have running water. You know, my electricity doesn't turn off for 8 hours of the day. I'm able to, the same way that you said, you're sitting down. You spent your summer sitting down, picking what college you want to go to, picking what program you want to do. I want them to have that, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in the States, whether it's in Eritrea. I just want them to have equal opportunity. Eritrea economically is so rich. There's so much things to do. There's so many jobs that could be occupied by citizens of the country, not by Chinese people, not by Russians, not by anybody, but by Eritreans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Eritreans are the only people who can take Eritrea forward, in my opinion. Eritreans are smart. Some of these guys that have come here within a year, they have cars, they have jobs, they have houses.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're stupid or it's not like they're lacking anything.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't been given the opportunity or the platform to grow to their full potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know people who have lived here for years and they don't have some of the things that these newcomers have.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
they know. As long if you give, it's simple. I plant a seed, I water it every day, I make sure it gets sunlight, and it'll grow. That's it. The rhetoric is so simple.
Yeah.
Eritrean youth, they want the opportunities. They want to grow. They're not lazy. And this is why they're fleeing. If I'm willing to die, if I'm willing to leave my country and die just so that I can get a chance at something, I don't even know what's waiting for me there. But just the idea of it, if I'm willing to lose my life for that, then clearly something is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Common sense.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked a little about like earlier. You talked a little bit about ISAS, talking about how you know, the country was doing bad, like academically, you know, education wise. So why has he kept the same policies for like the past 32 years?
The thing, the thing that makes me, I think the thing about Isas that I really like is that he is honest.
Yeah.
He's honest. He tells you to your face, I am ruining your country. And these guys are just so deep in La La Land that they're refusing to listen. He's telling you himself, our education is so low. Why is it low?
Yeah.
You're the president. You tell me why it's low. Why are you asking us? You know, simple things. He's telling you on national television.
Mm.
And you guys still, they still choose to ignore it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I, as a Canadian citizen, can go and vote. Forget my prime minister. I can go vote for the simplest things. City councilor. Who's the councilor of my area? I can go vote for that. Why shouldn't we, as a people, have the opportunity to vote who's going to run our country? Isaiah started off as a war hero. I will not take that away from him. No matter where he came from, a lot of people say he came from Tigre. A lot of people say he was sent by Haile Selassie. There's a lot of, is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. I can never take away from the fact that he is a war hero. But you take that and you're supposed to help our country flourish. You're supposed to make our country a better place. Instead, you took our country like a little piece of paper, crumbled it up, and put it in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just getting stale and old, and it's sitting in your pocket. You're not doing anything with it. Yeah. Eritrea 30 years ago was the same, and it's the same now. If anything, it's worse.
Yeah.
I was not the same person 10 years ago. I developed a lot in the last 10 years. The same way that I feel like Eritrea should have developed.
Mm-hmm.
Eritrea is a country that deserves so much more. It really deserves its flowers. It deserves so much more. It's seen so much as a country, as a people.
Yeah.
Every country, every family, every Eritrean family that I know lost somebody, has a Sioux in their family. Every single family that I know. What did they die for? What did they die for? Yeah. They died for a reason. Mm-hmm. I feel like he's spitting on their graves right now. He's spitting on their sacrifice. Yeah. It pisses me off. It really does. It genuinely angers me.
Yeah. So, I think that was all the questions I had prepared for you today. But before we wrap up today's program, what message do you have for the youth back in Eritrea and also here in the diaspora?
Change is coming. Change is coming, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. It's coming, and it's coming fast. You, as a people, cannot ignore that this happened in 4, 5, 6 cities all over the world. You can't ignore that. Yeah. We're not lying. Even if, let's say it was just Toronto, maybe you could say, okay, these guys are all liars. Everybody in Germany is a liar. Everybody in Seattle is a liar. Everybody in Sweden is a liar. Change is coming, and it's coming fast. These guys are pissed. Their blood is boiling, and they're coming for it. They're coming for change. No matter how it comes, no matter which way they get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh,
so,
and yeah.
Either, you can get your head straight and accept the reality of what our country is and what it's going to become, or you can stay in the land. Up to you.
Yeah.
It's really up to you.
Yeah. So, right before you leave, sorry, there was a lot of media coverage again on the festival, the protests. So, you were again interviewed by a news outlet. So we'll quickly play a clip.
Okay.
The idea was for us to go and march there and have a peaceful demonstration. And when we got there, we were met with sticks and rocks, and somebody had a knife, and they had metal poles, and they were hitting us from the gazebo, and from there it just went out of control.
What was the gathering about yesterday before you got there? What did you understand it to be?
It's advertised as a cultural Eritrean festival, but in actuality, it's how they collect proceeds and funds to send back home to fund wars and to fund child soldiers and to fund jails and to fund all kinds of illegal things.
So what's going on at the Sheridan Center today?
So tonight they're gonna have a private party where they sell tickets, and the same thing, the proceeds go back home, where there's an imposed 2% diaspora tax for everyone living outside of Eritrea. So you pay this tax to the government as an act of solidarity with the dictatorship.
How much money are we talking about roughly that you're are accusing?
Yeah, so this video is how I first saw you. I just scrolling on my TikTok.
Videos going viral. I've had so many people send it to me.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm very glad. I'm extremely glad. A lot of people say, hey, you shouldn't have put your face out there like that. I'm so glad I did.
yeah,
I have no regrets. I'll do it again. I'm doing it right now. I'll do it again. It's really, 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 I'm really happy that a lot of people got to see it. At the end of it, I did mention that, again, we're fighting for human rights. That's it. We are fighting for our human rights. We're fighting for other people's human rights. But we are fighting for basic human rights. Before anybody tries to twist what Brgid Nhamedu is, or Ta'amti, what they stand for, before anybody tries to twist what it is, we are standing for human rights. That's it.
yeah. I've had people come up to me and say, why are you getting involved in politics? And it's like, Eritrea hasn't reached a stage where it's even at politics, it's just Isaias. So the entire, all this protesting, all this speaking out is just, for basic human rights, the same freedoms that you and I enjoy, it should be accessible to them, So, yeah, and I'm really glad you did this interview. It's really important to reach the youth, and especially since a lot of current affairs or news for Eritrea, it's in Tigrinya, and a lot of the youth here may not understand it. So, you speaking out and doing the interview was really something good.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the goal. I will try to be the captain of Toronto. Go.
Okay. So
thank you for having me again.
No problem, and thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all the Airset viewers who have stayed and watched. And yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
صعب الوقت وتصيع غماماي ولفوت ماي قطنا ماي صعبني وتصيع غماماي ولفوت ماي قطنا ماي لا نمثل كعلسي أنت تهب كبرت نحديد كم هب أي قطر سعره مني وبقرغة لم يغير تحكي كم صحيل بحو عدي بين قلب ترب زي زلا غسو لك باطنا تسهدو وانو تكينكسو وانا غينكسو لغي لا صعبني قال خيط عتسقيك حسابي تخعبني صعبني كلاي صعب صعبني مقدر نحلنا نبر معنا داخل زين مقواس نعد حمامة زين ملايا نعد زقامة صعب 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 مني صعب 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 مني نعد صعب يتنحلنا نسو أبو بزين قتل صعب الذراعي أصريت غد صعب 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 مني صعب 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 مني تلاي صعب قبري عابدي قبري حج الوفا مع الصفاكا بغزونا مقدي نحلنا نبر مع داخل جاي زين مقواس نعدي حمامة زين ملايا نعدي لقامة صعب 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 مني صعب 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 مني تلاي صعب يتنحلنا نسو أبو بزين قتل صعب الذراعي أصريت غد صعب 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 مني صعب 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 مني نعس صعب